In the spring of 1954, Barton Kessel was called to Washington. He's 34 years old, handsome, with dark wavy hair and gold-rimmed glasses, a curator at the Minneapolis Institute of Art. He is a scholar of the Soviet avant-garde, the images of big men swinging big hammers in front of big factories. Proletarians of the world unite. Whether he actually believes this stuff or just studies it, well, that's what Washington wants to find out. So one day Kessel boards a train in Minneapolis and heads east. McCarthyism is in full swing. The Red Scare. Every week, artists are accused of communist sympathies. Charlie Chaplin, Leonard Bernstein, Arthur Miller. Blacklisted. Disappeared from the public eye. Poof. Even Aaron Copland, the composer of Lincoln Portrait and Appalachian Spring, is summoned to Washington because he also composed Fanfare for the Common Man, which sounds to some ears like Proletarians of the World Unite. Mr. Copland, McCarthy asks him, what was your view of the Hitler-Stalin Pact 1939 to 1941? Senator McCarthy, he responds, I spend my days writing symphonies, concertos, ballads. I am not a political thinker. Well, now Barton Kessel will have to explain how he spends his days, what he's thinking about. On the train to Washington, maybe he's nervous, wondering what kind of obscure evidence has been found to throw at him. With Copland, it was a group letter he supposedly signed onto, urging the United States to declare war on Finland, of all things. There's always something. But Barton Kessel never gets to find out. Because somewhere between Minneapolis and Washington, he vanishes. Poof. By summer, with no trace of the curator, and a show needing to go up near his office at the museum, workmen seal it up, exactly as Kessel left it. Underwood typewriter on the desk, ashtray filled with cigarette butts, Art Deco bar caddy with vermouth and triple sec, a kind of Mad Men time capsule. The plan is to take the wall down with the show in a few months, when, hopefully, Kessel will have turned up. But he never does turn up. Never calls, never writes. So the wall stays up. The office is forgotten. And eventually, so was Kessel. This is the Object Podcast, produced by the Minneapolis Institute of Art, now showing Mary Sully, Native Modern, the first solo exhibition of a reclusive artist from the Standing Rock Reservation, whose abstract celebrity portraits from the 1920s complicate ideas of both modern and native art. The Object is made possible by generous support from Ameriprise Financial, a proud supporter of the Minneapolis Institute of Art and committed to the future of art and culture in the communities they serve. Ameriprise Financial, helping people feel confident about their financial future since 1894. Today, a story of the blurring lines between truth and fiction, of the strange twists of fate, and whether any of us really get to tell our own story. I'm Tim Gihring. Kessel never existed, right? And neither did his office. At least not until Mark Dion, an artist from New York, invented the whole thing. Came up with the character and the story and then built the office. All for a show called More Real, Art in the Age of Truthiness, which opened at the Minneapolis Institute of Art in 2013. Now its own kind of time capsule of the 20-teens. Does anyone remember the word truthiness? No, a word that Stephen Colbert came up with in rehearsal. In 2005, back when he was playing a fake version of himself as, quote, a well-intentioned, poorly informed, high-status idiot. It means a lie that seems true, but isn't. Truthy. Something so ubiquitous now, it may be hard to believe that someone had to come up with a word for it. But Mark Dion wasn't just being flip. He came up with a whole backstory for Curator Kessel. Educated on the East Coast, once lived in New York with a lot of artist friends. Erudite but egalitarian. Shy and reserved. Maybe to conceal a double life. Revealed, as Dion puts it, by his collection of matchbooks from exotic bars and other strange places in the Minneapolis area. By day, Dion noted, he is Walter Benjamin, the German philosopher who predicted fascism. By night, he is Dean Martin. Maybe Kessel is a communist, or gay, or just living, as Dion says, slightly outside of 1950s conformity. It was easier, Dion says, to set a fiction like this in the 20th century, when objects could conceivably last for 50 years behind a wall. A world that was more real, in many ways, than the digital one we live in now. Everything, he says, had the potential of being a better hiding place, even for truth. Some people hate when they find out that Barton Kessel wasn't real. They feel like a fool. But just a year after the curator's office went on view in 2013, workmen really did find something sealed up in the museum. In some kind of closet or a crawl space that hadn't been disturbed in years. Several boxes of papers and records, nearly a century old, including the diaries of the museum's director for most of the first half of the 20th century. True story. Russell Plimpton is born in 1891 in Hollis, New York, now a mostly black neighborhood in Queens in New York City. Then a kind of genteel countryside, dotted with large estates. Plimpton goes to Princeton. He majors, as he puts it, in money, banking, investment strategies. It is only at the end of his time there that he changes course, deciding he will, quote, be much happier working in museums than in Wall Street. When he graduates in the spring of 1914, he lines up a job at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York in decorative arts. But before he begins the job, he gets on a boat for France, with plans to be gone for at least 3 months. July 10, 1914, he notes in a travel diary, location, the SS Niagara. Have dinner with French people, he writes, who seem anxious for us to drink wine. He will write almost every day for almost his entire adult life. Most entries will be like this: what he ate, what he drank, and with whom. Though early on, when everything is new and exciting, he goes further. On his way to France, he writes, we peacock about decks, singing familiar songs. He plays blind man's bluff. He takes a salt bath. And when he lands in Le Havre, the port near Paris, 11 days after setting out from New York, he notes the beautiful country and quaint houses. And, if I'm reading correctly from a diary written in cursive more than 100 years ago, geometric cows. Plimpton moves through Paris like the wide-eyed tourist that he is, primed to see the city as the center of so-called Western civilization that, well, it is. He goes to the opera to see Rigoletto. He visits the Arc de Triomphe and the Trocadero and the Eiffel Tower and Versailles and the Pantheon and the Louvre and Notre Dame at night. He has petit déjeuner in his rooms, trying out his French, trying out this world of taste and culture like a new suit. But once he leaves the city, the real world is waiting for him. August 2nd, he writes, soldiers leaving for the frontier. He takes a long swim in a lake, and then at dinner, quote, for the first time we realize the importance of the war. Germany has declared war on Russia and France on Germany. A bad dream, says his companion. After only 2 weeks in France, Plimpton decides it's time to go. He heads to an American consulate, only to find it so full he can't get the paperwork he needs. Banks are closed. Checks and letters of credit, he writes, are worthless. He sees horses being appraised, as he puts it, before being sent to the front. Troops assembling at a college. No money to be had, he writes, at all. By August 5th, Germany has taken Luxembourg and entered Belgium. Plimpton tries to walk to Voltaire's chateau, determined to still find culture, but is stopped by French soldiers. We are absolutely imprisoned without money, he writes. England declares war on Germany, Germany on Belgium, Austria on Russia. Exciting times, these, Plimpton writes. What will come? Plimpton finally escapes to Switzerland. He is a lifelong swimmer, and here by day he swims in glacial lakes, and by night he watches, in his poetic words, the alpenglow and avalanches. The cows here, he notes, are most inquisitive. By October he's in England, trying to get back to Paris on a boat crowded with British soldiers, the only seating a chair on the deck with a blanket. On the 7th, he sails for America, tired, disgusted, resentful even. There are snow flurries. He counts 20 icebergs on the way, along with 42 children and 9 baby carriages, which for him, it seems, are far too many. So many people, he writes, most of them decidedly second class. Most go about the deck. Goodness knows how many children, he notes, might be down below. His patience, his curiosity, have all run out. Nothing particular to do, he writes, except sit around. The last entry of his travel diary, Tuesday evening, October 11th, ship concert. Perfectly terrible. Plimpton is ready to work, and he's good at it when he finally starts at the Met that fall of 1914. Despite his insistence, which he will retain for the rest of his life, that he is not a scholar. Instead, it would seem, he is a charmer. His diaries are full of tea with Mrs. So-and-so and drinks at the club with Mr. So-and-so. But after only 4 years at the Met, he is back in France, this time in uniform. It starts out well enough. Even in the countryside around Bordeaux, he is having tea with ladies in their très modern decor. Heavenly days, he writes, country unbelievably beautiful and well cared for despite these 4 years of war. His chats with the French, he says, convince me the more and more of the superiority of their intelligence and creativity. And then, one day, he is marched toward the front. The shelling is close and intense, and it's not just bombs. Bad gas last night, he writes. Stupid days, these. His comrades are falling apart around him. About half these fellows, he believes, have a sort of mild shell shock. They really ought to get away. One day, he manages to get out himself to a, quote, splendid high mass, and finds himself nearly weeping with pleasure over the altar hangings and vestments. Plimpton spends 2 years at war, and when it ends, he returns to America like any other doughboy, with a card tucked into his diary from the United States Employment Service for returning soldiers and sailors. This will be presented by Plimpton Russell A., it reads, who is being released from military service. Will you please see that every effort is made to assist him securing a satisfactory position? As it happens, Plimpton's new boss at the Met is the old boss of the Minneapolis Institute of Art, the first director it had. A man named Breck, a scholar first, it would seem, and a charmer, well, never. By the time he left Minneapolis for New York in 1917, according to one observer, he had, quote, dropped all pretense of sociability and earned himself the nickname of the Prussian. Life as a curator at the Met, though, doesn't sound so bad. One night, Plimpton is drinking champagne and seemingly splitting the evening between the opera and a Toscanini concert. The next day, he's riding horses in the countryside, drinking an 1826 sherry at a club, and looking over a patron's collection. During dinner at someone's house, Robert Frost is there, an American poet of some merit, Plimpton notes, who, quote, reads some of his verses, and well read, too. Plimpton is taking French lessons, having suits made at Abercrombie & Fitch, and reading Tom Jones, a most excellent book, in his opinion. But after the war, he's had enough of Prussians. And so in 1921, he manages to get his boss's old job as director of the museum in Minneapolis. March 15, arrive at Grand Central, get cleaned up, see Breck, and tell him the news. Plimpton has been anxious about the move. After a big farewell in New York, a night of pantomime, music, and movies, he notes, Great Depression after the party. Too good to last. The deluge soon. But it isn't long in that spring of 1921, after his move to Minneapolis, that his charm returns to him. Go downtown, he writes that May, and see Mr. James Bell of the Washburn Crosby, the man who founded General Mills, the largest flour company in the world. He is a corker and a real person in every way. Know we will get on well. There is Alfred Pillsbury, too, who lives across from the museum in a mansion full of Asian antiques. Great fun, Plimpton says of his first dinner there. Look at Jade, very up-to-date theater gossip. He is, in some fashion at least, back in his element. A smaller element, but his. In the spring of 1921, when Plimpton arrives in Minnesota, he is 30 years old. Single, no children, you'll be surprised to learn. He is described as a man who treats, quote, his own abilities with wry self-deprecation, as though he were a well-meaning but slightly backward student. Like Hugh Grant in Notting Hill, only without Julia Roberts. He is often in these early days having dinner with Scott Woodworth, a Minneapolis grain dealer who also sings with the Minneapolis Symphony Orchestra. Most delicious, he says, of an evening with Woodworth. He sings a little Home About 10. There's a man named Carl, no last name. He and Plimpton go together to the Lafayette Club on Lake Minnetonka, the country escape for the Minneapolis Millionaire set. Dance once and home, Plimpton writes of their evening. Carl gets more attractive every day. By June, Plimpton is visiting the former home of James J. Hill, the railroad baron who died a few years earlier, to, quote, see his pictures. And then, the same day, back out to the lake with someone named H. Dean. Swim in moonlight, he writes, au naturel. There is no more mention in the diaries of Carl. In the early 1920s, Minneapolis is growing quickly, but is still the Northwest, right? Just emerging in some ways from the frontier. The museum, just a few years old, has only 27 employees, including Plimpton, who sometimes finds himself not only hosting receptions, but washing the dishes afterward, which is a kind of freedom to be not just a cog in a machine, but the machine itself. When Plimpton wants to acquire some American silver, he goes to New York himself, meets with a finder, someone who can get him what he wants, silver by Paul Revere himself. And he gets James Ford Bell, JFB, the flower king of the world, to pay for it. When Plimpton wants to acquire some ancient pottery, he goes himself to the burial grounds of the ancient Mimbres people in New Mexico, where he has an agreement with the University of Minnesota Anthropology Department to take half of whatever is found there. So, there's Plimpton digging in the desert, shirt sleeves rolled up, as though he were simply washing dishes back at the museum. Plimpton doesn't mention any of this in his diaries, or the fact that after the Second World War, he makes one of the biggest mistakes of his career. Dickie Davis, young, ambitious, Harvard man, a monuments man, actually, one of the soldiers who recovered the art that Nazis had stolen. Plimpton hires Davis as the senior curator, and he too seems to appreciate the freedom of a small museum. He has a certain directness about his ambitions. Dear Germain, he writes, a dealer in New York, on Plimpton's stationery, I wonder if you could tell me more about the Rodin you expect this winter. If so, I want a photograph, dimensions, and a price. Davis has always been drawn to modern art, the new, the now. And so he begins working with the board of trustees to buy more of it, in with the new. And it isn't long before he turns his attention to the old. Plimpton is, by now, in his 60s. Not old exactly, but not modern either. Still the guy who enjoys his tea and his French old masters, and those pots from New Mexico. Well, in the spring of 1956, Davis stages a kind of coup. The board presses Plimpton to retire. Davis takes his job. The member bulletin, now almost entirely full of scholarly essays by Davis, doesn't even mention that Plimpton has left. Over the next 3 years, Davis will indeed acquire more modern and contemporary art, while selling off antiquities and older works, thousands of pieces, in fact, including that Mimbres pottery, reportedly for around $1 a pot. By the time the board wises up and Davis resigns in 1959, Plimpton is in Florida, Palm Beach, the old man with a tan, partly retired, partly running the local art museum, still going to tea, but also cocktail parties, putting on, of all things, a contemporary art show. By the end, in the 60s and 70s, the diaries trail off. The occasional meal with so-and-so, a new address for such and such. Nothing more about art, or war, or the attractiveness of Carl. Maybe at the start you imagine life as a kind of artwork that you get to create with all your preferences and desires, only to realize that life has a life of its own, that you don't, in fact, get to tell your own story. When Plimpton dies, the New York Times runs a short obit, not even mentioning his time at the Met and spelling his name wrong. His diaries are taken to Minneapolis, perhaps because someone wants to keep them close, or because there's nowhere else for them to go. They are put in a box in a closet and eventually forgotten, along with the closet itself, until the museum director, in a sense, becomes part of the museum. An object of curiosity, waiting to be discovered, calling out, as he wrote in his letters, "With kindest regards, I am, sincerely, R. Plimpton." This has been the Object Podcast, made possible by Ameriprise Financial and produced by the Minneapolis Institute of Art, now hosting Summer at MIA every Thursday evening with live music and movies, food, drinks, and art, always free, the museum after hours. Stay tuned for more new episodes, and thanks very much for listening. I'm Tim Gihring.